Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Michael's Record Collection, where we talk about great music with the people who make it and the people who love it. I am very honored to be joined by Lawrence Gowan of Styx today. Lawrence, how you doing? Thank you for your time.
Fantastic. Michael, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I know you are very busy on tour. I believe you're in Connecticut tonight, if memory serves.
You are quite correct. Your memory
Although
is mine at this point. Yes, we're in
some
Connecticut. Last night we played in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. Just fantastic audience. And yeah, we're looking forward to more of the same tonight.
looking forward to talking to you about Circling from Above, the newest Styx release in a very storied career. But I want to start out where I always start all my interviews, Lawrence, and that is to ask you what was your first favorite record?
My first, well, any Beatle record would be that. My first favorite record is probably I Want to Hold Your Hand. But can I say my first album?
Absolutely.
Revolver. There you go.
Well, I have to also ask you about something that one of my Patreon supporters submitted a question. How did Jon Anderson end up on Moonlight Desires on your Great Dirty World album?
I love that question. Uh, I was in Los Angeles. We were recording Great Dirty World. This is long before I was in Styx. Okay, so that'd be 1986. And I'd come off the success. We had a triple platinum record with Strange Animal, which was my second album. Uh, and when we were in Los Angeles making Great Dirty World, our producer, David Tickle, was also working on part of the Legend soundtrack for the movie Legend. And Jon Anderson was involved there with Tangerine Dream, I believe, and David had put a Strange Animal on in the studio, and I believe they're in the same. We were in the same complex at the time, and John heard a Strange Animal, and immediately, apparently, he reacted to it and said, "I really like the sound of this." That's it. And Dave said, "Well, I'm working with this artist Gowan here on a new record." And he says, if you ever want to come in, I know he's a gigantic Yes fan, gigantic Jon Anderson fan. Well, John wound up hearing some of the bed tracks we were working on, and he liked them. Came out to the studio, and in the middle of Moonlight Desire, I met him. It was fantastic. I had seen him in concert many times, but we just kind of hit it off, and you know, I don't know. Within a few minutes, we were laughing at the same kind of similar sense of humor, whatever. And then we had kind of sculpted out that middle solo in Moonlight Desires as to be a guitar solo. It was what we were going to put there. But then John was kind of just riffing, like, and it suddenly dawned on us, John, why don't you go sing, you be the solo, you go and do the solo in the middle of the song, which he did. And I got to witness that from the control room and watch him put that solo together. It's just do 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 in Jon Anderson voice. And and then he went on to kind of sing the harmonies throughout the choruses of the song. And it just made everything beautiful. And that's how we got. And then I think after that, he and I went to a Dodgers game. Yeah, I know we did, but I can't remember if it was the next day or it was after that session. But we went to a Dodgers game and we just kind of hung out a little bit, and we talked a lot about Yes, and he gave me some very sound advice about my own career, and I've just loved him. I loved him before then and still do to this very day, and that's how John got involved in Moonlight Desires.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
and I should add, if anyone goes and looks this up on YouTube, you'll see the video which was done on the Mayan pyramids in Mexico. And I remember calling him to say, John, I'm going to go to Mexico. He was in England at this time. I'm calling him from Toronto. And I said, I'm going to go to Mexico to make the video for Moonlight Desires. And, when your solo comes, we can figure something out. I know we're going to use an owl in there and some other, various video techniques of the 80s. But it would be the best if you sang there. And he said to me, he said, I was just saw my, not going to do an impression of John because I used to always do that. But he said he was just speaking with a channeler. I didn't even know who that was. Um, about a week ago who said someone is about to call you and invite you to a warm climate and you should go. And I was that phone call apparently. And but 2 days later, we're on top of a Mayan pyramid. He's on the pyramid of the sun. I'm on the pyramid of the moon, and he's dressed as a Mayan god. And what's great is we made that video. I'm very, very proud of it. It was a surreal moment to have one of my idols there working on this video. And years later, he said to me, "That was one of the most important." Did you say important, or did he say one of the most life enhancing experiences he ever had was making that video? Something profound happened to him during the making of that video, and so very much honored to be connected to John through music, which is the best way to be connected to anyone, I think.
Yeah, and how fitting that the movie was Legend, to get to use Jon
Yeah,
Anderson on
that's
your
right.
album.
That's right.
And not he wasn't the only legend on that album, because you had Tony Levin play on
Oh
that
yeah,
album. You had
yeah.
Nigel Olsson from the Elton John band in there.
Will Lee played on
Mhm.
a song on bass. Um, a guitarist that you don't hear his name enough is a guy named Gene Black, who went on to play for years with Joe Cocker. Yeah, some great players have been on all my records right from the beginning.
Lawrence, you've been in Styx now for more than a quarter of a century. Believe it or not, it is mind boggling when I looked up how long you've been in the band. But tell me a little bit about your history with Styx in terms of, you know, you obviously were aware of Styx, but going from being aware of Styx to being in Styx had
Yeah.
to be a surreal experience for you.
Yeah, so I mean, Styx in the late 70s, Styx were arguably the biggest band in the world. They were America's favorite band. I think in some poll that Rolling Stone did or something like that. And they were ubiquitous on the radio in Toronto, I can tell you that. They were always on there. So what I would really noticed about that band and what was really in awe of is that's very much the type of band I had in the late 70s when I was first starting professionally in music, and trying to bring together the prog elements that I loved, in music, from Genesis and Yes and ELP, etc. And to a certain extent, yeah, Elton John and Queen, and and trying to be successful with that. And Styx were the first band that were not from the UK that I saw were being very successful with it. And I was really, it was noted that they somehow made the progressive side of their band very palatable to a wide-ranging audience because they had a tremendous pop and rock sensibility blended in there. So the blender of that band was so successful using all those elements that I happen to really like, and particularly the progressive part. And my own band at that time, it was at the height of, it was the disco era was just at the peak, and then punk came in very strongly in Canada. And so we were kind of caught in that kind of the waning, um, the sun setting on the progressive band, so to speak, uh, for a brief time. So I was aware of them, but I'd never seen them live. They would come to Toronto and sell out Maple Leaf Gardens, and anytime they came in, but I'd never seen Styx live. It just never coincided. In 1997, I finally got to see them live because we did a show together in Montreal. They had built the new Montreal Forum. I knew that Styx had headlined the old Montreal Forum. I had headlined the old Montreal Forum as a solo artist, and the promoter, the same guy, and he called me and said, "I know you're playing Montreal on this date." He was promoting it. And he said, "I want you to change. We're changing venue. You're going to open for Styx." And I reminded Donald at that time, okay, Donald, I haven't opened for anyone in Canada in over 14 years, but I want to play at the new Montreal Forum, and I'm completely solo this year. There's no band. It's just me on piano. And he went, "That's exactly what I want you to do," because I had a top 10 record that year in Quebec with a French record I'd done. And when we did the show, I opened the show and they took note of me because the audience knew all my songs and were singing along and giving me, I got encores, etc. It was one of these Hollywood scripted nights. And almost like having Jon Anderson come to do the Mayan pyramids. And they took note of me, and I took note of them because I really enjoyed their show. It was the first time I saw them, and I thought, what an entertaining band this is, and I felt great about them. And 2 years later, when they called, my assumption at the beginning of the call was, "Oh, great! I'll open more shows for you as long as they be in the United States. I really want to start breaking there, and if I can." And they quickly said, "No, we'd like you to join the band."
Now, were you aware that Dennis and the band had parted at that point?
No, I was aware that they were having difficulties going on a tour. That's how it was put to me initially. They had 33 dates, I think, were booked, and that they needed someone to come in and play piano and sing, and they thought that would be me. And then I got a quick education after, well, I went to Tommy's place a couple of days later down in Hollywood. It was great. You talk about a Hollywood thing. He lived right by the Hollywood sign then. I mean, right by it, by the way, not like looking up a hill. It was like right parallel to where his house was. And we sang, well, actually, before we even started, I was about to play, I think, Grand Illusion or Crystal Ball. I can't remember. I just prepared him really quickly the day before. And Tommy stopped me and said, "No, no, no, don't play a stick song. I have a solo song called "A Criminal Mind." And went, just play that. So I played "A Criminal Mind," and Tommy's wife was there and some of her friends, and I went through it. It's a pretty dramatic piece. And by the end of it, he just went, "Okay, we should make that a stick song." So I thought, wow, this is moving very, very rapidly. And then, I thought, yeah, I'd love to join you guys on this adventure. And then it was then revealed to me that their backstage drama, as I like to refer to it, had gotten to a point where they needed someone to come in and kind of commit to what they hoped would be the next 5 years of the band. If they could make it, they were hoping to stretch it out for another 5 years somehow. Capitalize on the all the social references that were coming up about Styx in the late 90s, etc. And they needed someone committed to going out on tour and being part of the band. And I said, okay.
How long did it take for you to go from that period of, oh my goodness, I'm joining Sticks to, these are just the guys now?
It's funny. Even in that initial meeting that we had, much like with Jon Anderson, we were just comfortable with each other in a very short, in a few minutes, quite honestly. We seemed to be simpatico on all kinds of fronts. And then when we sang together, it just gelled, and JY said, "I really love the way you're singing these songs." And, I thought, well, great. And that was kind of it. There were the first couple of years, yeah, when we'd finish a show, I'd get onto the tour bus and go, how the hell did I wind up in Styx? This is this was not in the script that I had written, you know, but it felt I comfortable is not the right word. It just, to my mind, and to the rest of us, it just felt right. Even though I know it came out of turmoil that they had to go through, and was I know painful on all sides. So I'm aware of that, but it's what they felt was necessary in order to really keep the band going.
Did you Were you concerned at all about winning over the fans that had been with the band on this journey?
Probably, yeah. It's a long time ago now, but probably I've mentioned this before. The very first show we did, our rehearsals went so well, etc. And we were in Branson, Missouri, which is a town they had never played, and I don't think we played it since. But it was a great night, and we should be playing there again. But it was a great night, and I remember it was in a theater, maybe 3 to 4 thousand seat theater, and the place was full. And I think we opened with Blue Collar Man, if I recall. And the second song was Grand Illusion. And I remember you do the intro to Grand Illusion, and just as I drew breath to sing the first line, I realized, oh, like in a flash, I'm like, here's an audience that's never heard anybody else sing this song. It sticks. I wonder what's going to happen. It went through my mind. And at the end of the song, there was just arms up in the air and people cheering. And Tommy Shaw, I remember, crossed the stage. He's on opposite sides of the stage. He came over and it was either fist bumps or high five. I can't remember what was the vernacular of acceptance and triumphant display. But it was like that, and then it was like high fives from the. I do remember that from the audience. So it seemed like at least the people who were there were suddenly they just wanted their band to continue. They love the songs. The songs are the stars,
Yeah,
and I guess we gave a good enough rendition that I haven't really thought much about it since then.
that's terrific. That's
Other
terrific.
than pleasing the audience. I think
Yeah.
about that every night, but whether they accept me as an individual, it's a collective experience and endeavor.
And you basically have been on the road with the band ever since because you guys do tour a lot. You you put out the Circling from Above album on July 18th. It came out on Universal Music Enterprises. And
Yeah,
this, so a little over 2 months ago, as you and I record this,
yeah.
Styx's 18th album. I believe it's your fifth with the band since starting with Cyclorama in
It's studio.
2003.
Mhm.
And this album is a to me it really comes off as a love letter to rock and roll in a lot of ways. The songs flow together like Abbey Road. Um, you've got songs on here that certainly, um, while not necessarily plagiarizing some of your favorites, certainly sound like some classic rocks, especially the song that Will does, "We Lost the Wheel Again."
Yeah.
This thing sounds like it came right off of Who's Next sessions. I mean, he sounds like Roger singing it. It sounds very Who. Was this always what you had in mind, or did it just organically happen that some of these songs borrowed very heavily from the sounds that were used by the classic bands?
You know, we are fans ourselves of that era of classic rock. We know that the palette that was created by all those bands from Led Zeppelin and Genesis and Yes and the Who, because I always consider Quadrophenia to be an extremely progressive record, um, to my mind anyway. And we I think back then, quite honestly, when I analyze it now, I think bands did kind of, and you've used a tremendous term there. It's not, you're not plagiarizing when you're actually just going, oh, there's a really great approach to something. You know, here's, and I remember even you mentioned that, like Abbey Road. I know that when they were doing, I believe it was Sun King, that George Harrison, I think, was quoted once as saying, "Oh, this was our kind of." We were influenced suddenly by Fleetwood Mac, the early Fleetwood Mac. I think Peter Green was the guitarist then, and it's like, and Paul would McCartney on "Oh Darling" was basically doing a Fats Domino or kind of his those influences were there, but they were much tighter together in years, right? So you kind of knew them, but didn't necessarily connect those dots really quickly. Um, but now that we're 50 years on from that era, and new audiences have come in along the way, all that entire palette is kind of what we draw from. It's what we're referring to try to make these new records sound as authentically connected to that era as we possibly can. So, yeah, yes, you could absolutely say that. And I love what you said about the album, by the way. But We Lost the Wheel could be on Who's Next, in that it's like, yeah, it's very Who influenced, etc. But it's also at the same time a very modern take out of Willie Vankovich's mind currently in 2025. So it's the duality of that I think is part of the entertainment.
Yeah, you nailed it because it does sound contemporary, even though it borrows some sounds from those classic records. I think that's a very wise statement. I think that is absolutely what I'm hearing. And
Sure.
the interesting thing is these guys have gone from sort of becoming acquaintances to friends to family to now you have family in the band as Terry Gowan has stepped in for Chuck Bonazzo on bass.
Yeah. Well, no, Chuck's still in the band as
Right,
is
right. But
Terry.
he's added as a full member now.
Yeah, Terry's a full member, yeah,
Yeah.
because Terry, I mean, on Circling from Above, I think Chuck played on one of the songs and Terry played on everything else. And Terry's been in my solo band since 1985. That was when he first joined. Funny enough, the way he joined the band was, on that record, I'm talking like 1985 now, and he was only like 19 years old. Um, it was on the album with Tony Levin and Jerry Marotta and David Rhodes and a great guitarist named Chris Jarrett as well. And I, the record took off so quickly. There was that first song, "A Criminal Mind," became a gold single within 3 weeks of its release. And I thought, oh my God. And suddenly these dates were, I was offered a date in March. So it was only like less than 2 months after that album came out. I was offered a date in March in Toronto to open up for the Kinks at Maple Leaf Gardens. So I was going from playing a club to playing the biggest venue. And I called Jerry Marotta and Tony Levin and said, and they were working on the next Peter Gabriel record. That's what was happening then. And my brother, who was, came to me right away. I said, Tony Levin, he can't do it. I can't get him. Um, he goes, I know all the bass parts already, and I could learn the Chapman stick he played Chapman stick on two of the songs that was planning to do live. And he went and got a Chapman stick. If people know, it's a 10 stringed quasi bass, but also treble instrument.
Mm-hmm.
And Terry learned the bass line to Cosmetics, and I said, within a week, I was like, yeah, it's you. And then I had to find other band members really quickly. And so I put that band together. When I went back to touring as Gowan again in 2010, once I'd been in Styx for 11 years, um, Terry was the natural bass player to come in, and Todd Sucherman very magnanimously said, I'd love to do your solo shows. So Terry and Todd became a rhythm section back in 2010. And I played probably a couple of hundred shows by the time the decision came down that we need somebody new to come in. Todd and other guys in the band just said, "What about your brother?" And it became the natural kind of thing. And I kind of went, actually, you know what? He would fit in. But it was suggested by others before me. And I said, we know how famously well brothers get along in bands. I mean, just like Oasis and the Bee Gees and the Early Brothers. It goes back in history.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, so we did bring that up as well. And I said, the good thing in this instance is he's not working for me. He's working for you.
Yeah.
So he's done absolutely. I'm really proud of how he's done. And I knew he would.
Yeah. Circling from Above is it, it, it's a great album. I think it's probably my favorite since Cyclorama that you guys have done. And what I like about this is that you're not afraid to go out and play new songs on tour. A lot of bands don't even touch it. I recently saw Night Ranger. They didn't play anything off their most recent album.
Right.
And that bothers me because I think you're still out there making good music and you want to reach people with it and you see how they respond to it. So Circling from Above and Build and Destroy is something you've been opening shows with. And Build and Destroy was the first single.
Yeah.
It's, I think, simultaneously got a great little organ sound right out of Pink Floyd, but I also think it's the most classic Styx sounding song in some ways. Great choice for the first single. How have audiences been responding to that opening number?
Tremendously well. I mean, it's amazing, Michael. You, when you're a band of this vintage, we'll call it that, it's very, very difficult to crack that set list and have people have an open mind about anything new that you're going to do, particularly if the quality of it doesn't quite match up to what their expectations should rightly be. So we're very much aware of that, and we understand why other bands may choose to do new music, but not necessarily put it into their live show. For us, it's a vital thing to do because enough people of your mindset we know are there, particularly because half the audience on any given night is under 40. So they weren't even born when the biggest classic rock albums came out,
Mhm.
right? And of course, I'm including you in that group. And so they kind of are hungry for something that's concurrent with their own lives and why they love that sound so much. This ties in with exactly what we're talking about. The the, the bar that it has to clear though is it has to fit seamlessly into the set to where, and this is, you brought this up already, to where sonically you're not suddenly stepping into a completely different realm, but instead there's a continuation or a connection to what to the classic rock era. So when I came in with that, it's a Wurlitzer, electric piano sound that starts it off, which I was really thinking more in lines of Supertramp, quite honestly,
Yeah.
somewhere between Supertramp and possibly Queen, because you're my best friend.
R.I.P. Rick Davis.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and very much so. That's very apropos to mention that. Uh, to mention Rick Davies. So we felt when it came to choosing a single, let's choose the song. Well, because it's not really a single, it's the first release. We don't,
Right.
okay. So, let's do a song that has the right energy, the right kind of connection to the past, where enough people that are, let's say, have been with the band from the beginning might suddenly go, was this on, Serpent is Rising, or was this on an album that I don't know, from
Hmm.
the past? And meanwhile, you know, in the line of songs, it has to fit the energy and the impetus of the whole show. And Build and Destroy, fit the bill. And we've added, we did Forgive for a few shows there because we put that out, and now we just did for the last couple of nights we added Michigan into it, and no, audiences are getting more and more receptive to something new if they feel it matches up to their sonic interpretation of what the band is supposed to be like.
Right.
And believe me, we listen to the applause after those songs, or our eyes do go to, or did people leave and go to the washroom, like doing a super slow ballad, and we're not seeing that.
That's great. And I think you've picked all of my favorites from the album to perform live.
Oh,
Michigan and Forgive are right up there at the top
great,
for me.
good.
It's a I know we're pressed for time, so we got to wrap up. But I did want to mention that this is an album that's you guys took some chances. There's a little bit of unusual instrumentation on this album. There's some upright bass. You've got a fiddle solo on Blue Eyed Raven. You've got clarinet on She
Yeah,
Knows.
yeah.
Some strings. Um, you guys obviously were reaching out, stretching out a little bit. Tell me a little bit about adding these unusual for Styx instrumentation.
Great point, Michael. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, the strings, for example, I can do lots of strings on my keyboards, but there's some songs where the human touch on strings is so necessary, and Will, as a tremendous producer that he is, brought that element in, and boy, I love that so much. The orchestration that comes in is great, but also like in Blue Eyed Raven, Terry said, "Wait a minute, Jay, Blue Eyed Raven's kind of got that Tommy Shaw kind of folk element in this song, much like Boat on the River." Chuck, didn't you played an upright bass on Boat on the River? And Chuck went, yeah. He goes, I think I'd like to do a stand-up bass on Blue Eyed Raven. And Terry's a really good stand-up bass player as well. So that element came into the record. And then, um, yeah, the clarinet solo, uh, it was, God, that was just so bloody well done. It's a nice fresh color to bring into it, that's not played on a key. It's not a keyboard one, but an actual player, much like when I'm 64, the Beatles,
Mm-hmm.
bringing a clarinet into that song. So yeah, we widened the palette a little bit there, and added some orchestral pieces. Yeah.
Lawrence Gowan, this is a great album. It's called Circling from Above. I hope it does really well for you. People can pick it up wherever they get their albums at this point. July 18th came out on Universal Music Enterprises. You can get it on, online, get it in a record store if you can. Thank
Yep.
you so much for telling me about it. I'm really happy to have spent this time with you, learning a little bit about your background, and thank you for your
Yeah.
time.
Thank you for it's a great chat, Michael. That was very enjoyable, and I'm particularly pleased with the fact that you like the record so much.